Welcome to the Bald and Bonkers Show. Join your hosts Christopher Mole and Dakota Franson as they take you on a wild ride through the world of the supernatural, with a humorous twist that'll have you laughing and shaking in your boots at the same time. From ghosts to aliens to cryptids, no topic is off limits on this show. And the best part? You don't have to be a believer to join in on the fun. So grab a drink, kick back, and tune in every weekend for new episodes. And if you want even more of the Bald and Bonkers experience, be sure to subscribe to our Patreon page for exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Let's get weird. Oh, and for the whiners out there, viewer discretion is advised. There you go, you entitled pricks.
The entitled pricks always gets you, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's so weird that it's like our guest tonight. I was sitting like, what are they talking about? You know?
No, people didn't seem to like the fact that we live up to the name Bald and Bonkers. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a new episode, and today we have Dave Bender from Bender Paranormal joining us tonight. How you feel, man? Last we heard from you, you and the family weren't doing so hot.
Yeah, I was coming off of foot surgery number 5, and ended up having some back issues and had to have an epidural. So it's just one thing after another, it seems like.
Oh God, I've heard that can be quite a painful thing.
Well, yeah, the needle's this long, man.
I had it once in my knee. I had it once for my knee. I had my knee drained once. Oh my God, it was there. It was so.
The feet and the knee can be bad. I would say the feet are probably the worst as far as pain.
Please,
I had the knee done, shoulder a couple times, but the feet are definitely by far the most sensitive. Yeah. I would say, yeah.
It's. Oh God! I about 3 weeks ago I had the bug, the COVID. Oh, that was diabolical, and I hope never ever have that. It was just. So, David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am here in live in California, and I came from Montana before that. And grew up, my family, most of them lived on a reservation there in Montana. And back in the 90s, there weren't a lot of paranormal shows on TV at all. Every once in a while, you would see a special, and that was rare. And I want to say probably 96 or so, I saw a special on TV and thought to myself, I could do that. And so I ended up doing that myself. Just found some crude instruments at the time. I had a thermometer and a camcorder and just whatever I could find, I think. Yeah, it might have been a spatula. I'm not sure what else I had, but just started going out and investigating home.
It's something that nobody really talks about. Is like Native American ghosts and stuff like that. I've noticed that. I mean, all the ghost hunting shows are all like abandoned hospitals or abandoned buildings and stuff like that. It's not like really a subject that people really talk about. And I've always found it fascinating because the Native American history is absolutely phenomenal. It's thousands and thousands of years old, and there's so many questions I've got for you but Dakota.
No, I have to agree with Chris. That's something you don't really see explored a lot of, and obviously you can chime in on your thoughts here, Dave. But I've always attributed to horror movies using the old cliche, old Indian burial ground, and you mess with something, you're gonna have poltergeists. Now, granted, this is where you get a lot of stories involving like skinwalkers and stuff like that, and certainly very interesting history.
Well, and for us, I think the paranormal is as different as it is for each tribe is different. So every tribe is different, and they kind of have their own beliefs, as far as what's going on. But at least for our tribe, is Rocky Boy. So we're from Montana, and my family growing up would always tell me stories about family members that would have things happen that a lot of bad stuff tended to happen to those that didn't believe. So if you believed, you were kind of accepted within the world, of the paranormal. So it became very normal to talk about it. I mean, we would talk about family members passing, coming back and visiting us, and leaving clues and trying to pass messages on through dreams and things like that. And but if you didn't believe, then those are the ones that ended up having the bad stuff that would happen to them. So we were always taught to believe, and it was like talking about the weather, talking about the paranormal, ghosts and spirits and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was very commonplace for us, in that, as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
Do you have, in the Native American side, do you have like a name for spirits there? 'Cause obviously we call them ghosts and spirits and that. Do you have like a different name for like what spirits are to you?
My family called them, just they would use the term spirits because they were very active and very communicative, especially with a lot of the ceremonies we would do. So we were always interacting with a variety of spirits. For example, with the giveaway dance I was talking about, there's a spirit that would come in during that ceremony, and it was called the backward spirit. So instead of dancing face to face with people when you're giving them something, you would actually turn away. And everything was done backwards with that particular spirit. So it was someone, and the spirit would enter that person, they would come in, and they would be there for a certain amount of time, and you would get to interact with it. And once, there was a certain amount of time, and then they were gone. But throughout the course of the evening, like I said, everything is done to assist with whoever is sick. So it was a group prayer type of situation for that. So we always call them spirits just because.
Yeah.
I
was just checking just in case you had like a name. Like I know Native American histories have like certain names for like certain things.
Yeah.
So I have noticed that, especially since the pandemic started, what was that?
What was that?
Did you guys hear that?
What was that?
Kinda
It's not
that
Zesty Benders because
raspy,
I'm using a special.
I was like,
What
I don't
was
know. There was
that?
like that really raspy,
It was a hiss.
windy voice to it. Yeah.
No, it was
What
like
was that?
It was like, now a lot of weird things do happen in this show.
I wouldn't say what was that. I would say who was that.
You came what I'm getting, and this is the God's honest. This is what I'm getting. I'm getting like a rattlesnake, and I don't know why. That's what I can see as a rattlesnake.
It could be my uncle messing with you. I mean, it's very possible.
Oh dear Lord! If my grandfather is passing by, he is stirring in what remains of his ashes. That man was afraid of snakes.
It was the way it spoke. It was like it was like a hissy a snake.
Like I said, it very well could be. I mean, he's very much active, in depth as he was in life, and he does come to a lot of our investigations, and will make himself known oftentimes. So it's
That's the quote I setting up.
I wouldn't be surprised if you guys experienced him too.
That's actually, well, if it is him, thank you for sharing that ways, because I find it fascinating how the spirits sometimes like communicate through the shows and stuff like that. Here's a question that I've always wanted to ask. See how you get Native American burial grounds, right?
Mhm.
Do they still bury in the same way to the culture? You know how they used to put them in a high, all raised up area, and let the time take it.
Yeah,
do they not do that?
Anymore.
Not anymore.
At least the family members that, reservation that they live on. I mean, it's not an area that's very, it's very barren and it's just not much there. So it's really hard for them to be able to even do that. It's mostly the traditional ways, a lot of cremation.
Right. I always wondered that, because I didn't know, because I know you get ancient burial grounds and stuff. I didn't know that he's cremated. That's actually very interesting. That is.
And a lot of my family, I mean, they chose to be buried, traditionally buried. So you could still, we can go to the regular cemetery and find a lot of our family that's been buried there. But I think as time has gone on, it's become more of a personal choice for them, whether to be cremated and a lot of times it's done out of cost, because it's definitely, it's more, it's less expensive.
Oh yeah. It's I don't know what it is. I'm getting a weird vibe. I just don't know what it is. There's got a weird vibe.
I'm actually hearing feedback coming through.
I do this. I'm terrible for this, and I've done this to Iron City Paranormal, and I've done this.
Here he goes.
Here we go. I sense somebody standing behind you, David. It's so weird. It's I can feel it.
I can feel it. It's really cold, so it could be. Yeah. Well,
I can see, again, this has got to sound crazy, but it's like see how you get the old movies and stuff like that, and you get the Indian chiefs, but they've no got the what is that called? The feathers, the headdress. It's no got that, but it's got like pleated hair. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like pleated hair, but it's an old man. There's an old man, and he's just it's weird because you're getting the weird kind of like, this guy knows his stuff. This guy knows his stuff. And you don't want to know him, but he's a nice guy. But he knows he's like a protector type person. It's so weird. I can see. I can feel it. It feels so weird. What do you sense, Dakota?
Welcome to my world.
This is definitely going to be an interesting night. But yeah, I do see a male figure over your right shoulder, as a matter of fact. That does match very close to what Chris is saying. So, and I was noticing earlier, it's like about right in this little area here underneath my mic stand, that just as we got started, I noticed like there was a white shadow that just darted through, and I'm just like, okay,
checking things out,
Yeah.
It's not the first time that's happened to us, but never stops getting excited.
In the way home to my house today, I seen a buzzard just doing its usual thing, just flying about looking for rabbits. But for some weird reason, right now, it's not an American eagle. Is it a golden eagle you call them? You only get them really in America. They're oh God, what is it? It's just sitting there watching you. Because I know that animals play a big part in Native American. Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
We have a ceremony, and it's not one I talk about often, but it was called the telescope, and it's actually a name-giving ceremony. And my uncle would he would run it, and you would get your Indian name, and there's a bear and an eagle that actually fight over who gives us our names.
Really? That is so.
And I can't explain it to you, because if you've never experienced it, it's kind of strange. I had a friend growing up in Montana, and young guy, and we were pretty much inseparable. And I would start to tell him about my uncle and Native American beliefs, and he was a typical cowboy kid, And when I first started telling him, he was scared, and he actually slept with his gun under his pillow at home.
Like, that's going to do much.
It's not going to do that.
But then one day, I actually brought him over to my house and actually met my uncle. And then from there on out, it was over. I mean, he was fascinated with him. I mean, every time my uncle would come over, he would come over to the house, and he would sit and listen to him for hours, talk about everything. I mean, transfixed. And he had been given a name during that ceremony. His name was Lone Wolf. And he remembers being in the room, and it's dark, and he remembers sitting there, and he reached over and he could feel bear fur, like there's a bear sitting next to him in the room. And he wasn't frightened or anything because, it wasn't threatening, but just the strangest thing for him to be able to have that sensation and to be there for that, to get that name. And like I said, you tell people and it's like they just don't understand if they haven't experienced it, but it's quite impactful.
I'll let Dakota go in a minute. It's weird because I don't see the old man anymore. I just see the eagle, just like it's no this side, it's the other side for you, and it's just like sitting there, and it's just like looking at me like that. It's just like it's just sitting there. It's weird.
He's one of the he's one of our protectors.
Is that what that is?
Does a lot of medicine, for.
It's just getting a weird vibe. It's so weird. It's just it's like when we do these lives and stuff, we see things and that, but I don't know if it is the night. It just feels really weird. It feels weirder more than usual.
Yeah,
I can sense a lot of energy, and I mean a lot of energy, like protective energy. A dome kind of thing surrounding Dakota.
There's almost a familiar sense to it, to be honest. I'm from Idaho, and my grandfather, when I was little, we always used to go up into the mountains and find like arrowheads and stuff like that. It's something that always fascinated me. And like I said, I'm seeing things moving about around me, and even the animals are registering it, so something's up.
See, it's weird just to say that because it's quite cold in here. My house is like a nuclear reactor. It's really warm, and it makes me wonder because my friend in North Carolina sent me an arrowhead that they ploughed up in his field, and it's right across from me. It's just sitting right. I can see it from here, and it's like a crystal arrowhead because they would find lots of them, when they were ploughing the fields. And he says, "Do you want one?" I went, "Oh." And they said, "I don't know. I don't know. It's a feeling like should I have that kind of thing." And it makes me wonder now: should I have that or should I send that back? Kind of thing. You know what I'm trying to say, Dave?
Yeah.
It's
I laugh because it's always fun when people experience it, and it's eerily familiar, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's as if I ken this is going to sound weird because I'm Scottish. Obviously, I was born in Scotland and that, and I don't have a Native American background, but it feels so familiar. There's something so familiar about it. There's something. If I knew, it's like something maybe from my previous life or maybe in between lives when I was a spirit. There's something so familiar.
Well, Chris, you also got to realize there was a point in Earth's history where Scottish Highlands area where you're from, and say it like the Appalachian Mountains here in the U.S., they were all part of the same region at
That's
one
very
point.
true. At
So
one point,
there's stuff that bleeds through on either side, just slapped with different names. So, like I said, I'm literally hearing wind right now, like a mountain in the middle of a field, and I was just like. And I do know that there is some Native American in my ancestry, so it's like, okay, who's going to be coming out?
Oh my God, what's happening, David?
You want
what did you do?
You're getting
Oh God, this is brilliant tonight. I don't know what this. It's so weird. It's like it's not a bad feeling. It's like a really nice feeling.
It's very
like,
comforting, isn't it?
Yes, that's what it is, and it's like they're curious. They're like, look at that strange guy with the strange accent. Look at them. The two of them are bald, kind of thing, and it's like they're just so curious about us, but they don't mean us any harm. But they're very protective of you. I'm getting that eagle is very protective of you because it's like moving along. It's like a parrot. It's kind of like moving along towards you.
Now the funny thing is you want to talk about strange. There's a time during that ceremony where he will actually speak in Cree, our language, and it's
right.
It's a sound that you just can't understand if you've never heard it, and it's just it's just, I'm used to it now, so it's not as, but it's still amazing if you think about it. I mean, just the way, all the things that I've experienced and my uncle, kind of allows us to experience and continue to experience. We tend to get used to it, and we kind of forget sometimes until other people experience it. Then it just brings everything back.
I don't know why I want to ask you this, because it's popped in before the start of the show tonight. This popped into my head, and I don't know why I'm saying this, right? This is so weird, as it's a strange night anyway, right? I'm getting dream walking. What can you tell us about dream walking? It's like because I think it'd be beneficial for us. I don't know why, but there's just something about it. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, there's times where we tend to sleep and dream and go to different people. And my mom experiences it a lot with people who've passed, like family that has passed. They will come to her and have, full conversations about things before. A lot of it's unfinished things that, they want to let them know about before they leave, but they don't truly leave and stay gone. Like my uncle's always around, and even my brother who passed, it's been a couple of years now, but he's there as well. So you get a lot of different people and energies and animals and all kinds of, our house is full. So it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to charge them rent, and that hasn't happened yet. So
what we're experiencing now must be intense in your house.
Intense is a good word. It can get pretty, and for me, I tend to get really cold. I work a lot with kids, and I tend to have a lot of kids that come over.
Yeah.
And they want to watch certain shows, and then they will make me so cold that until I put something on that they want to watch.
Yeah. It's are you David froze there?
Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like, I've been getting interference. Like I said, I've been getting signal interference, and there's a woman here.
That's so weird.
Like, oh, he's back.
That's
it's like you froze up for us there in a second. I was just like, yeah, something's definitely coming through.
I couldn't see anything for a while there, so yeah.
That's been known to happen with us.
Yeah, there's something so curious. There's something so curious, and it's curious about us three. I don't know. It's just it's like it's fascinated with us, and I don't know why. It's just fascinated.
The more you talk about it too, it becomes a group experience, and then that kind of excites others as well.
Because it'll attract other spirits.
And especially if they know what like when you guys talk to my wife, I think you'll have a better understanding.
They're more powerful.
She's well, you'll see. I don't want to ruin it for you, but
oh dear Jesus, I've got to see the apparitions coming to beyond.
Not in a bad way. It's just quite different. She has abilities. She has so many abilities, and it's interesting to see her have a conversation and go places.
I've never felt this way before. When we've been talking to like psychics and we've been talking to people about haunted houses and stuff, I've never felt this way. It's so welcoming. It's like they're curious about us, and they're using this to come over here because I can feel it's getting called in here in my radiator zone, and it's weird that, but they're curious. They're so curious about us. But the one they hurt is, I know that it's a weird feeling. The like is for some, it's as if they like us, but they're just so curious, and it's making us. It's just so welcoming. It's just a really welcoming feeling. Question for you: what is like? See how like in our faiths with like, Christian faith and stuff like that, I would believe we'd go to the pearly gates and stuff like that, and heaven and all that. What is your beliefs? What happens when you die? Do you go somewhere? Obviously.
I think it depends. There is, we believe in a heaven. It's just a little bit different, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't say God per se, we say creator.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's pretty much all the same thing. It's just God accommodates for everybody else's religions, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, like, my uncle is able to obviously go cross over, come back,
Yes.
if someone needs something, and that's still his job or his role, I would say. Like in the afterlife, he always looked out
Mhm.
for everybody when he was alive, and
Mhm.
it just continues on now that he's gone. It's just easier for him to be able to do it now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does. That's Dakota. What's with you, Dakota? Because there's something affecting you. I can see it. It's weird.
See, for me, even under positive circumstances, the way these interactions fire off physically in my brain, it would probably read off like I'm having an epileptic seizure, which is actually fairly common from my understanding. But I keep seeing this woman in kind of a long white robe type thing. It's like trying to figure out who she is.
Would you say she was Native American? Like, would you say that, Dakota?
She looks like she has it in her, but I don't know.
See, I'm just getting an awful love feeling. That's all I'm getting. As if we're all like, whoever's there watching us is like really happy for us, and it's weird. I feel like I've been smoking something, but obviously I've not been doing it.
I wish I smoked more stuff. This stuff would make more sense if I was high.
This would make this. It's weird. It's like I'll tell you what it feels like. I feel like I'm sitting in a circle now, and there's loads of folk round about me. The people that's round about me, there's only a few that's alive, like David and you, Dakota, but the rest of everybody is past. And they're like, oh, hello, welcome, and come on in, sit next to us, kind of thing. It's just so weird. I've never experienced anything enlightening with this. See,
our tribe in particular is very welcoming. So people still alive and even passed on. My grandmother she didn't care who you were. So if you were hungry, she would invite you in, feed you, whatever she had. So that's a lot of what you're feeling is that, it's just who they are and who they were. They were just always welcoming and inviting and just love people. So one of the few tribes that was like that.
I'm gonna go off the topic a wee bit here, and there's something I would like to ask you. What, obviously we're talking about nice spirits and things like that. What about darker spirits in the Native American world? What are they called? And, well, if you're allowed to say what they're called, and because I know name gives them power and stuff. If you don't want, it doesn't matter. But is there darker spirits in the Native American world?
Well, we always stayed away from it just because it was so dark. So my family really kind of just didn't really talk too much about it.
Yeah.
I think the closest thing we would talk about would be the little people. And there were these little people, not leprechauns. Just to make a distinction, but they were always causing trouble, and you could hear them at night running around. And my uncle used to sleep with the lights on at night, and we used to ask him, "Why do you sleep with the lights on?" Because they would always come and bother him at night. And in order for him to get any kind of sleep, he would sleep with the lights on, because if he didn't, they were always there, constantly bugging him. Good, bad, in between.
See, that's really interesting, that, because obviously we had a friend, his name was Mike, and he used to talk about these little creatures that would come in the night. And what were they called again, Dakota? They had the name. Remember, Iron City Paranormal were talking about them, and it's something to do with mirrors that attract. They use mirrors to travel. Fetch. Is that the same kind of same thing? A fetch, and they use like mirrors to like travel, and like people's houses and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they would come at night, and we were always told to keep something on, whether it be a light or something, because it was always had to be dark.
See,
so we would always So I always have the TV on when I sleep.
Yeah.
Or something like
That's fascinating, that, Dakota.
But yeah, you can hear them. You can hear, like I said, and people always wonder, why do they experience more paranormal activity at night? They don't. The only reason why you notice it more is because it's quiet, it's dark, you're more relaxed.
Yes.
It happens all the time, but you notice
Aye.
it more at night when everything's settled.
Yeah.
Definitely. So one thing I've always wanted to ask is that when you go into a lot of these programs nowadays, say like Ancient Aliens, just as an example off the top of my head, they go to try to reference Native American tribes talking about star people, being that UFOs are a big topic right now. What are your thoughts on that?
On UFOs?
Yeah. And that kind of, I know I probably could have worded that better. Did we just lose them again? Every time!
See, that's quite an interesting subject. The Native Americans and UFOs, because they've had their history goes on further back.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people, there's talks in several cultures where native tribes are interacting with these species. He's back.
He's back.
Right as we go to specify UFO, he disappears.
Do you know how I came back? I went like this. Right when I did that, it came back.
Oh dear God! Oh. It's an interesting subject that Dakota asked you. I mean, obviously, and is there any history of the Native Americans seeing UFOs? But obviously before technology and stuff. Before anything
we
like
didn't
that.
really talk about UFOs all that much. It was always what was here. Our biggest thing was ghosts and spirits, and the interactions we would have with them. So that was always our main focus. We never really talked about Bigfoot or UFOs.
I was going to ask you about that,
cryptozoology, anything like that.
Well,
I was going to ask you about
this shirt was a bad idea.
My grandmother was one of those that if she saw something talking, like a talking animal on TV, she just hated it because she goes, "It's so fake."
It's a subject I was going to ask you about Bigfoot, because I do know. I mean, we've met some people. Was it Dr. Meldrum that was talking about how the Native Americans this is going back maybe to the 17th century, where their wigwams and the burn there at night, and the big hairy hand would come in and steal their children and stuff like that. It'd be like story passed on. I take it there's any stories about that, about maybe people going missing strangely.
Oh, you're
maybe
now
any
you're
myths or
going into
legends.
missing 411.
I never mentioned
that.
that.
Gonna bring it up.
I'm not going to mention that. But
You just did.
I didn't mention missing 411. I've just missed it now. But is there any darker tales in Native American history that's maybe sort of subjects like this?
Not so much for our tribe. Like I said, I think it's tribe specific. Each tribe kind of had their own beliefs and stories and things that they would pass down. Ours was, you have to believe. If you didn't believe, that's when the bad stuff would happen to you. You don't go into the cemetery and sleep in the cemetery. You don't, there's certain things you don't do. You cover your bacon grease. Don't ask me why.
Really? Why? I have to ask you why.
My grandmother always covered her bacon grease, and she said, it keeps them out. You just cover your bacon grease.
What, do they know, like pork?
Well, just because they want to have something to eat? Come on, I think that'd be a compliment. Right, food's so good that the dead would rise. I don't know.
And it's funny because a lot of times we never ask. We're just like, okay, it's just one of those things. You just don't do it.
So
crazy question.
On your ghost investigations, some of your ghost investigations, what kind of things have you witnessed in your ghost investigations? Raising the eyebrow there.
I was at a location one time, and in the bedroom itself, I could feel myself being pushed down to the ground. and held
Okay.
there. And they would pick me up and walk me outside in a circle, and then I'd be okay. So of course, then I go right back in, and happened like 5 or 6 times in a row. So for me, it was odd. The strangest things, though, the strangest thing I've ever seen happen, and my wife will hate me for this, but she was actually picked up and thrown into a wall at an investigation. She challenged the thing that was there and
Right.
should not have. And you see it happen on TV, and you go, "Yeah, it looks hokey."
Yeah.
But when you're there and you actually see it happen, it's quite a different story. And there was probably 6 of us in the room at the time. And she had actually seen it a year prior to that investigation because we had known some people that lived around the corner from that actual residence. And she had actually seen him standing out in the middle of the street, further down the street, all dressed in black with a big black coat on and a hat.
Oh,
It wasn't human.
Oh, that mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've dealt with him.
I've heard the name. I don't like mentioning the name because every time I mention the name, something happens.
Yeah, she won't mention the name because
Gives it power, doesn't it?
But she'd gotten hit in the chest and was thrown into the wall. And after that, she was craving salt really, really badly. And it was one of those things that we usually do a prelim before we go, to find out what's happening ahead of time. Is this, going to be?
Nope. The aliens have came again. Hey there, David.
UFOs, the weird spiritual. Now our old friend.
Aye, our old friend. He keeps popping up quite a lot, doesn't he? He doesn't, doesn't he?
A lot of people dealt with him. That's going to be his anchor.
Yeah.
That still gives him access to come through.
I mean, it's so interesting that on the Native American side of things, they've encountered them too.
He's popped up in just about every culture. Every culture has a version of him.
How long has he been popping up for? I've always wondered that.
Well,
he'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Just wait.
I was about to say that was a poor face that he got froze on, but
yeah,
Chris, you got to remember the particular theory I had about his origin traces him back literally to the beginning of mankind.
Something that's feeding off fear.
He's looking to start a war.
Well, it's the way the world is now. I mean, this must be an all-you-can-eat buffet.
He's been. Did my K2 just spike when I said that?
What?
When we started getting the activity, I busted out my K2 just to see what would happen. And as I said, he's getting ready to start a war. I thought I just saw it light up.
I think I'll maybe talk to you after the show about this because I don't want to mention it in here because I've been having weird things.
You need to be careful.
I need to be careful. And anybody that's watching this, ladies and gentlemen, some people in the chat will be like, "Oh, this doesn't exist. This isn't real," and stuff like that. I can tell you something right now.
I will say this, Chris. I will say this on the air. I've been contemplating a certain project to discuss my information about this thing. And I've noticed we had a few more pop up. He's alive!
Hello. He's back. You're 5 weeks late. Where have you been? The aliens get you again.
I lost the internet and everything at that point. And it said you guys weren't available.
This is what happens when you talk about that
particular figure.
Yep.
We've seen him draw blood. So
yes. And I had weird things happen to me that time. I mean, one of the stories they were talking about that individual, and the next day I went out in my car and I was driving along a road and there was this mighty bang, as if something had landed on top of my car. Right? As if something had literally landed on top of my. So I get out. Fine. Nothing wrong. Not a dent. Not a scratch. I think it was him warning me because that's when we were researching that kind of thing. And ever since then, I thought, "Name me. I didn't even mention his name."
You also got to remember, he don't work alone.
No.
Yep.
It's
Well, the good thing is I usually do pretty well because I'm pretty well protected. So, the strange thing about this location, though, is that it targeted the women and not the men.
Yep.
And I went into that feeling nothing whatsoever. Just it was a bunch of college kids living there, and okay, they party a lot, so we're thinking, well, we're not really sure. But dark masks coming down in front of their face.
Oh dear.
Cold glasses of milk being poured and left out.
What's your opinion on like the spirit board and stuff like that? What young people like to play, which I suggest if you're watching this and you're young and you've got a Ouija board and stuff like that, do not touch it. Please, to God, do not touch it. What is your opinion on it? I mean,
we always tell them no. And a lot of the times when we're doing our prelims. So when did the activity first start? Oh, when we got this Ouija board and started playing with it. It's opens up doors that and they don't close them properly.
Yeah.
And they should be messing with them to begin with, but it happens a lot with people that they just don't understand.
Have you ever encountered like a possession?
No. And if we even sense that anything's demonic or there's even anything like that going on, we will refer them out. We won't take those.
Yeah. I was just gonna have to ask that because it's questions I've written down. It's I've always wondered because it's you know what it's like with kids and that they play the Ouija board and they open door and they don't know how to shut it again. And then God knows what comes through there, right? And it either latches itself to them or it latches itself to that property. I mean, it can destroy somebody's life. I mean, it's something that latches itself. What would you do, right, in your ceremonies and stuff like that? Like, say your friend had an attachment. How would you do like a kind of exorcism? Is there a exorcism thing that you do?
It's interesting because I've had things attached to me.
Yeah.
And I've actually had to call my wife, and she's been somewhere else, and she's actually taking care of it where, she'll get it off of me. We have things called elementals.
Yep.
That they're not good or evil. They're just there.
No, they're just benign, yeah.
I think some of us throw off more energy than others, and I tend to do that. So I end up feeling like, within a matter of a few seconds that I've got the flu, and I'll get the chills really bad, and I can't stop shaking. And it's taking that energy. It's really hard for me to shake that off when it's on me. So I've actually had to have her, and she can do it pretty simply. But
I'm really looking forward to meeting your wife. I think it'll be quite interesting because,
like I said, she'll tell me, okay, don't take this freeway this morning. It's going to be an accident. So of course I listen. I listen every time she tells me something like that.
Does she ever, maybe I'll ask her this when she's on, does she ever know anything about what's happening in the world right now?
Oh, yeah.
Does she? Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely curious to meet her now.
Yes. I mean,
it's always an interesting, it's fascinating to watch her work because she does a lot of dousing when we do our investigations. She will douse.
Yes.
And she gets information so rapidly, even before she's getting answers and questions, and she can hear other people. And I went to an investigation one time. It was a little kid. We love investigations with kids that are involved because we want to make them feel more comfortable. Those are the ones I really enjoy because if they're scared before we get there, we try to make them feel at least more comfortable when we leave. And we went to a home one time, and there was she might have been 2 and a little blonde girl, and she was clutched to her mom. She was deathly afraid, and we showed up, and she wasn't getting down for anything. And we're bringing our stuff in, and my wife is just sitting there, and then she looks at her, and all of a sudden the little girl crawls down from her mom, and she walks across the room, and she brings her a red ball. And then a few seconds later, nobody's, she hadn't said anything. A few minutes later, she went and got her, I think, a truck or something. And then she kept doing this over and over again. And then her mom was watching her, and she's like, what is she doing? She was asking her, go get me the red ball. And she'd go get her the red ball. Go get me the truck. She'd go bring her the truck. And sometimes we have to be careful when we go out because little kids, they may not have communication yet, but they can talk here. So a lot of times they'll just come walking up to our table and, people will freak out. It's like, there's just that natural connection that happens.
I can't wait to meet your wife. I think that has got to be absolutely fascinating.
Just after everything going on tonight, that says enough right there.
Oh my God. There'll be poltergeist activity that night. There'll be things fleeing around about me. But the thing about poltergeist, there'll be things fleeing around about me.
Yeah, and she grew up on a farm in Michigan, so it was interesting growing up.
I mean, I'm still getting, it's weird because I'm getting this feeling that there's a protective bubble all around about us. And it's weird how you brought up that individual with the hat and the jacket and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. It makes you wonder if your uncle and your that eagle or whatever it is here protecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like any quick prayers in Native American that you can do to maybe protect yourself? You think, like, obviously in the Christian faith, you've got the prayer to Saint Michael and stuff like that, but in the Native American one, do you have like a quick prayer you can say before you say you go out there and ghost investigation or before you get into a haunted location?
I would do a blessing.
Yeah.
I use sweetgrass for most of my cleansings and things. And I have a medicine bag that I'll bring that my uncle gave to me before he passed. And there's some different things in there that I use. But I will bless, whoever's there that wants to be blessed.
Yeah.
And then if they ask me to, I will bless the location. And a lot of what we do, like I said, you have to buy into what we're doing in order for it to be effective.
Yes.
I've seen priests go into homes and go through the motions of blessing them, and they've bought into it, and it's actually worked for them.
Yeah.
People don't understand how important the power of belief is in whatever it is that you do. People will say, well, how can I regain power over something I can't see? We always tell them, when that child that you have gets on your last nerve, how do you talk to it? You're very forceful and direct. It's no different. The only difference is you can't see what it is that you're talking to, but you have to have that same conviction when you're dealing with it.
It's actually terrifying because if you think about it, you get into a house where a family have been getting tormented. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder what it looks like and the fear. I mean, I suppose if you're just stubborn and you say, right, get out of this house, you have to get out of this house, leave this family alone. I mean, it might get slightly pissed off and follow you home because obviously it's not welcome in that house anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens a lot with a lot of the locations. One of the best investigations we ever had, and for how we investigate, this would be like the perfect example of how an investigation would go for me.
Yeah.
We had a family contact us. It was a mom and a dad and 2 kids, and they were deathly afraid. The mom was being touched on her face at night, and it was just scaring her really badly. Our sensitives that go into the investigation, we give them nothing. They have no information about the prelim. They have nothing going in. We don't invite them to dinner with us.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're talking about, okay, what we're going to do that night, where we're going to go. They just show up to the location. That night, my wife happened to be the sensitive that was coming to the investigation. So we always have them do a walkthrough first, and nobody says anything to them. We have one person walk with them and kind of record their impressions when they go through the location. So whatever they're picking up on is whatever they're picking up on when they go through.
Yeah.
My wife did her walkthrough, then sat down with the homeowner and started talking with her. And the first thing out of my wife's mouth to her was, "So you're being touched on your face at night." And her eyes got really big. And she started to describe what it was that she was seeing and what she was, experiencing.
Yeah.
Turns out she described her mother who had passed. Meanwhile, we have debunkers on our team. Their job is to find rational explanations. They're going through they found a carbon monoxide issue and a gas leak in the home.
Right.
PG&E was called, to come out and to check, and they said that they needed to move from the house, that it was that bad. Sure enough, they move out of the house. Guess what? The activity stopped.
Okay.
Mom was trying to get their attention to get out of the house. And we had gotten a letter from them about 6 months later thanking us for saving their lives. So something that seems very, very paranormal initially, but there are rational explanations for the activity.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's absolutely amazing, that, because her mother was doing it deliberately to make, and then you found the gas leak, and because they could have all been dead.
And people have this over-reliance on equipment, and the equipment's only as good as people using it. And I'll take a really good person over a piece of equipment, because we can all sit down and watch a scientific experiment happen, and we can all come to the same conclusion. Whereas with paranormal activity, you might hear something, you might see something, I might experience something different. It's going to be different for all of us, Yeah,
I mean, I've noticed when I've went to like castles and stuff like that, we only really have like the EMF meter and the ghost box, and that's really. I do think a lot of the gadgets, the big gadgets that cost like maybe thousands of dollars, are a bit of a gimmick. To be purely honest, yeah, it'd be great to have them, but it's.
And they have their place. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
People tend to feel better when they see people with equipment.
Yeah.
It tends to put their minds at ease a bit, I think, because they see, and this is true for the people that live in the home and the people that are investigating, especially if they're newer, because they feel like, okay, I've got something I can focus on.
Yes.
I can do that and contribute, and it's not as scary per se, because they haven't done it as long. So they have that function, and then, but at the end of the day, what's a cold spot? Unless, you have something that goes along with it. Did you feel that cold spot? Did you get a spike in something else? Was there something else to corroborate it?
I've always find it's true. Someone told me this once. It's interesting to go to a location with no equipment whatsoever, just to walk about and see what you feel. Because some of the spirits might be. Again, this sounds got to sound stupid to people watching this, but some of the spirits might be afraid. They see you with the weird-looking gadgets, and remember, some of these spirits might be from the 18th or the 17th century, and they've never seen anything like this before. And they see you with these things with flashy lights and making noises, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm staying away from them." But whereas if you just walk around about the house and just listen and sit down and just feel the energy, yes, because you can usually tell if. I mean, I went to somebody's house one day. It was just a friend, and it didn't feel right at all. It was weird. It was like the feeling that we had at the start of the show, which is still here, but it was different. It was dark. It was like the guy had his curtains open and the light was shining in, but the room was dark. You know what I'm trying to explain? You don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, I mean, it was a sunny day. The sun was coming in, but it only came in to a certain point. It's as if it was getting stopped. And I went, I'll just go use the toilet. I went up the stairs, and the place felt really weird, as if you were watched. And it was as something was just in the shadows.
We went to Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Oh, right.
And my wife and I got to go in the death tunnel by ourselves. The guard let us in for about 45 minutes. And you can feel the darkness. It's unlike a lot of places we've been to, but you can actually feel it. And you turn around, you look, and it's darker. And then you turn, and then you can feel it. It had substance, and it was one of the strangest feelings, was being in that area.
it's like a shadow that just gets darker and darker and darker. And if you shine your light at it, it's weird because your light seems to get absorbed into it.
Mhm.
That's
And
it goes
you're
around
shaking your
that.
torch and you're looking at the
dark.
thing, and it's creepy, really creepy. Dakota, would you like to ask some questions?
I was trying to ask this earlier before I got distracted, but being that with everything going on in the world, especially, I noticed, especially since the pandemic started, a lot more people are becoming a little bit more open-minded to this type of thing, whether it for them it manifests in the interest of UFOs, spirits, or anything like that. As someone who's worked from the spiritual side, what would be your advice to these people?
I think a lot of it comes down to what's your motivation or your intent. Because I think most people, when they start in this field, we all want to prove the paranormal exists.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say we started there, and we fought tooth and nail trying to get other people to believe what we were believing or what we were experiencing. And oftentimes it would fall on deaf ears.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until we went to the Woodland Opera House here. It was the opera house here in where we live. My wife got an apparition photo, and I'm sure she could probably show you at some point. And totally, caught us off guard because we didn't notice it at the time. We didn't notice it until after we had left, and we had gone back and tried to recreate it any way possible. It just wasn't happening. And this was before my wife, even knew what Photoshop was, because people were saying it was Photoshopped, it was fake. Because no matter what you give to people, they don't want to believe anything you have. Even though people have their own experiences, they still don't want to believe what they see. Yeah. And it was at that point that we realized we need to stop trying to prove that it exists to other people. Because 9 times out of 10, they've already made up their mind regardless one way or the other. Yeah. And this is true from when we go to locations. They already either know that they're experiencing something or they're not. They just want validation. Mm-hmm. And once we stopped trying to prove things to people and just give them what we have, we let them make up their own minds. It became so much simpler for us. And, we're not there to prove or disprove anything anymore. Yeah. And I think people kind of have to have, what is that purpose? Why are you doing it? Is it curiosity? Do you want answers? Is it a personal crusade? What is the reason? And as long as they stick true to whatever it is that they are doing it for, I think that's the biggest thing that they can take away from that. If they just want to do it because they enjoy it, they have fun with it, they're not causing any harm, great. Some people have this deep-seated reason to prove, the paranormal exists. And that's fine. If that's your stance, go with that. But, for us, it's helping people.
Yes.
The biggest and best investigations I've ever had that were the most successful, at least in my eyes, we got no evidence whatsoever to show to people, but they felt better after we left.
Yeah.
There was a sense of relief, and they felt better. And that, for me is what it's all about.
Yeah. So people that's watching this, where can they find you if they have a problem?
Our website, benderparanormal.com. It's funny. I feel like the Godfather sometimes because every time I kind of try to step away from it, it's like they always pull me back in, and we always end up. It's like I've tried like 4 or 5 times to try to stop, and it's like it always gets sucked back in. So now it's like, all right. I just have to give it up because for me too, I think I also enjoy new people because they have that brand new enthusiasm and passion that I had when I first started. They haven't experienced everything, but they're excited about it. They want to experience things. And for me, it's more important for us to have people that want to help people. I can't teach you how to care about people, but I can teach you how to use equipment and how to investigate. I can't teach you how to care. You have to have that in you.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you're doing a good thing. You're helping families sleep at night. I mean, there'll be families out there there's probably families right now all over the world all huddled together in the living room because they're terrified of what's happening in their house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, I mean, for me, I know the afterlife exists. I know you go somewhere when it's your time. Hopefully, I'll live to 120. You know, I don't want to go there now. But, and I also know we're not the only humans or life form in the universe, you know. But thinking the people that you've helped, thinking the people now that are sleeping in their beds, and they know that the bad thing, it's no there anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, getting that thank you from that family 6 months later, I mean, that's as good as it gets. That's all the thanks
Yes.
we need. To know
Yes.
that they're doing
Mhm.
well and that, you know, they're not scared anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So-
even if
so
it's
the-
not gone, for them just to know
Yeah.
how to deal with it and know it's not as scary as they thought.
See, I had the same kind of problem. My house is quite old, and it's got its character. I always knew there was a spirit in here, and a psychic told me about him one day. And you know when I acknowledged him, when I acknowledged the spirit, I never seen him again, ever. I still feel his presence in that, but it's weird. It's as if he's looking after everybody.
Mhm.
And he's a nice spirit, because that's the medium told us he comes and he's a cross spirit and stuff like that. But I will say this: see, like herbs and stuff, especially sage. I lit a bit of sage, and I didn't see him for about 6 months. It's like the bug spray, the paranormal.
But I don't know if either of you watched Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like George Costanza says, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Yes.
Very true.
So Dakota, do you have any more questions before the end of the show? It's the end of the hour.
No, I think we got a good show, and I'm
Well,
definitely shocked we had as much going on, and we'll see what happens afterwards, because it never just stops when the cameras are off. You know, it seems
I
to
know.
Sleep
always
tight.
kick up.
You'll wake up
Just
through the night, Dakota.
Just kidding.
You'll wake
Just kidding.
He'll wake up through the night, Dakota. I'll not be able to move, and there'll be all these Indians running about. But I'm like, "Ah, ah."
Like, oh, don't you think I get enough action as is, Chris?
Oh God, I get
Probably not the
I'm
best
almost
way to put
kinda-
it.
But you know what?
Encounters
If
in
you're
the
used
third
to it, you
dimension.
know.
Well, if tribal warriors come to me tonight, I'll say, listen, you need to go and visit David Bender. You need to go and visit him. He'll take you in, and you can visit him at his house, you know, or visit Dakota. He's into that kind of thing. He'll have you in, you know. I would like to thank you, David, for coming on the show. And after this, we'll talk to you behind the scenes. If you just stay in, we'll talk to you after the scenes.
Absolutely.
So catch you later, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight, and another show will be out soon. Catch you later, dudes.
You definitely don't want to miss tomorrow's one. I have a feeling
No.
that one's going to get pretty intense. So
It's going
much
to be.
love, stay safe, and like we always say, keep an open mind, because if anything, the last few years have shown us is that quite literally nothing is impossible anymore. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe you'll end up
strange
on one of these shows talking about your stories very soon.
Mhm.
So anyway, much love.
Catch you later, dudes.
Thanks for tuning into the Bald and Bonkers Show. If you enjoyed the show and want to show your support, head over to our website at baldandbonkers.net. There, you'll find our merch, services, and more. Thanks for being part of the Bald and Bonkers family, and we'll see you on the next episode. And remember, always keep an open mind and an open heart. You never know what may happen tomorrow.